I can hold it. She'll tell me, I never try anything on, I never put anything on. Son, that's trauma. And I have that in me after dozens of years. I was taught this as a girl, it's still in me. And there are millions of people of color all over the world, in America and European countries, who are walking around with trauma. And the other thing too about Winston Churchill, I'm not a believer in pulling down statues or defacing statues. I don't think they get anywhere. But if you're going to take one down, put it in a museum so that we can keep telling the story. Because if we don't do it, we'll forget it. But can you imagine being a person of Asian descent seeing this statue? Winston Churchill was an imperialist, and he was an unabashed one. He never apologized for being an imperialist. And he always, he detested Gandhi. He was against Indian independence. If you're a person of Asian descent, of Indian descent, how do you feel? Now, I'm not saying that...
But Bonnie, I'll just leap in there because I know people will be reacting to that specific point. And I don't want to get sidetracked too much on Churchill. Sure. We are talking about a world leader who saved the world from fascism. And so, we have to put some perspective on why people are renowned, why there is a statue to them, don't we? And whilst we should know all about them, and if you show me a flawless character, I'm sure...
Simon, I'm not against Winston Churchill. I don't want his statue to go down. But the story I told you previously is about trauma. If you want to know why people in the streets, is because they're traumatized. They've had enough of it.
But Bonnie,
yes.
can I just ask you, how should I, as a white man, respond to that story you're telling me? What would you expect my reaction to be?
Doing what you're doing right now and doing well. You listen. You listen to me. You listen to me. And then the next thing you do is you say, what do we do together? Can we have a conversation? What do we do? I'm not for taking Winston Churchill down from where he is. I'm not for putting anything on him. I'm not for dragging him down. I want you to understand the trauma. And to have another report, we've got 2 of them already. If you heard the exasperation and the trauma in David Lammy's voice, that's what it was. He'd written one. Why don't we have the result of it? We don't need another report. Let's implement what we've got. Why don't we do it? And why doesn't the Prime Minister begin any statement by saying, I apologize to you. I said things in the past. They were careless. I didn't mean to say them, but I've said them. And I apologize. Can we go forward? We don't get that from people. And people are in pain, Simon, and they've had enough.
So clear the slate is one thing, but people need to change how they think, their attitudes, don't they?
They do need to change. And that's one thing. I'm a museum person, so that's one thing that museums can do, is to teach people the history 180 degrees. A person can do bad things and a person can do good things. That's the complexity of life. And we need to teach that to people. But we do need to listen to people's trauma. We need to listen to their pain. That's why when we saw Mr. Floyd being murdered in the street, people said, I can't take this anymore. I can't take the humiliations. I can't take the being ignored. I can't take being prejudged, which is what prejudice is. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. And I'm not in any situation as a person who might not be where I am. And I listen, I'm telling you, listening to that lady before you, I thought about going into a jewelry shop. I know what I've got to do. Imagine what a 25-year-old black woman has to do. If I got to do it, and I'm a long way from that this is horrible. And we need to address the trauma that is within people of color, that is passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes it drives people into mental states, but most of us, we realize that that's where we're bearing, and we don't want to bear it anymore, Simon. We just don't want to.
Bonnie, is there a point at which we obsess with the past at the expense of the future? That you said clear the slate, which of course many people will say yes.
No, I didn't. No.
Well,
but
many people will
That's
say if
not my
only we
word.
could. We can't, can we?
No. I mean, I read History University. We can't clear any slates. I mean, history is written by the victors. It's not written by anybody else. And I think what people are asking, I mean, I put out a podcast on Black history, and I think what people are asking is tell us the whole story. Yes, Winston Churchill saved this country. He was a great wartime prime minister. He was probably the greatest prime minister this country had. But he was a human being. He was also an imperialist. He was unabashed. Max Hastings has even said, the historian, that his attitude toward people of color, and this is Max Hastings' words, was primeval. And we feel it. We feel it. Let's tell the whole story. I don't say take a statue down is not necessary, but let's teach history to everybody so that we can go through this and become a united kingdom, a united country, for real.
Well, it's really good of you to give us your time.